All right, everybody, welcome into the Pump Fake. Jarrett Bailey with you, joined by my good friend JP Acosta of SB Nation. How's it going, buddy?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, we're thriving and surviving here. Hold on. So, do you partake in the Advent calendar thing?
So at first I didn't, but we
Mhm.
got one for free this year from a store we went to in the area. So we're doing it this year because it's free.
Okay, so my sister's got me like an NFL mini Funko one, so I get like a little tiny dude every day. Do you want to know who today's mini Funko was?
Who is today's mini Funko?
Today's mini Funko is Derek Carr. There you go.
That's hilarious. That's awesome. They
Yeah, so
even
just
they nailed the head perfectly.
absolutely. Yesterday, here, I'll kind of give you a quick little tour. Yesterday was Aiden Hutchinson. So,
Ooh, that's a nice one.
yeah, so quick, just making our way up until Christmas. Good stuff all around. Speaking of Aiden Hutchinson, he didn't play last night with the Detroit Lions in a game that had a lot of people talking for Dan Campbell being Dan Campbell. The Lions going for it on 4th and inches when 30 seconds left in the game. They could have just kicked a field goal. But the way that they established the run all night, the way that they've done it all year, and the way that Dan Campbell is, of course, he's going to say, no, we're not going to give the ball back to Jordan Love. I don't care how much time is left. We're going to just end this thing now. They get the first down. Obviously, Jake Bates kicks the field goal. The Lions are 12-1. And so many people on respective social media sites. I was like, eventually, it's going to come back to bite them. It's going to, the same thing that happened against the 49ers last year. Eventually, that could have gone badly. And I mean, I'm sure that you and I probably have similar thoughts on it where I'm just like, yeah, but it worked, And like, we know that this is who Dan Campbell is. And even if he didn't get it, then okay, you've done well on offense all night. As your defense holds, you go to overtime. And like, even if you don't and you lose, like, you're still 11-2. You're still in a pretty good spot. Like, I think that a lot of people were severely overreacting to it rather than just being like, damn, Dan Campbell's awesome for doing that and believing in his offense and also believing in his defense because if they don't get it, he clearly had the belief in Aaron Glenn's unit to go out and get a stop. So I think we need more coaches like Dan Campbell who play to win, not play to not lose, rather than people living in their fears.
So my biggest thing about people saying, well, it's not going to work in the playoffs. Well, if it doesn't work in the playoffs, what if it does? Since we're playing the what if game, what if it does work? The Lions are, I believe, 65, 66% on fourth down conversions this season. That's pretty darn good. I think they embody so much of like what they say they are. They embody that. They live their raps. Dan Campbell, I think, is going to initially got a lot of flack for the decision to go for it. But when you consider everything about the game flow and the situation they were in, it actually made more sense to go for it. Yes, the defense had played well, but in the second half, Jordan Love caught fire and you just kept losing players. They were playing with local LA fitness people in Detroit out in the secondary at that stage in the game. Pat O'Connor was getting serious snaps. No disrespect to Pat O'Connor, who played awesome yesterday, but
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? Like, they had little to nothing left on the field. You put the ball in the hands of your best players, and that's what they did. They ran behind Penei Sewell with David Montgomery. They went and won the game. And I think the biggest thing that stands out for me with this team and with Dan Campbell is this is what they are. This is the edge. This is what gives them something that nobody else has. It's okay. So, when the Chiefs get to playoff time, they have Patrick Mahomes. That is the
Mhm.
edge they have over everything else. The Bills get to the playoffs. They have Josh Allen. That is what's going to give them the advantage over everything else. The Eagles have Saquon Barkley and that run game. That is their advantage over everything else. The Lions' advantage is they go for it on all these fourth downs. You create these margins. You always have the game in your hands. And when you compare it to a guy like Matt LaFleur, who is an incredible coach, but on the fourth down decisions in this game, he took a delay of game and punted, and he also punted from 4th and 3. That is what loses you the games. That is what separates the margins from good teams to the elite teams. And that is why the Lions are so good. They always win in the margins. I think we took what Dan Campbell said when it comes to taking a kneecap and like biting a kneecap. Of course, it sounds like raw physical, but he means taking at every advantage you can get, getting every single thing out of every single play. And that's what going for it is. You're maximizing your chance of winning. So also, the Packers didn't have any timeout. If you get it on 1 yard, the game is over.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a situation where the Packers had timeouts. They can still stop the clock, Go for it. They don't get the chance to get the ball back. So it made so much sense for them process-wise. But just from a team standpoint, you have to live your raps. If you're going to be the fourth down guy and the fourth down team, you go for that 4th and 1.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like we're both wrestling guys. I'm trying to think of like who's the wrestler that perfectly embodies what the Detroit Lions are in terms of like, yeah, I say what I am, and I think Darby Allin to an extent. Jeff Hardy or Darby, yeah, he's like, yep, I'm the dude who does crazy flippy shit and takes crazy bumps, so here I am, I'm gonna do it. So I do think that there is something to that's kind of fun to dissect. I also think that our friend Aaron Schatz is probably sitting there rubbing his hands together, being like, yes, I'm sure the analytics are like, dude, go for it, and absolutely, he's always going to be one of these guys to go for it.
On that 4th down, analytically, it said to kick it.
Okay, well,
to kick the field goal. But I think this is the funniest part about this go for it situation is every time someone punts when they should go for it, they mention game flow and the situation. Now it's the same thing, but it's flipped the other way. You're going for it instead of kicking because of the game flow and the situation and being in the moment and going with your gut. Dan Campbell said after the game, you want to win it on their they want to win it on their terms with that offense and not have to put their defense back out on the field. That's living your raps. That is living what you embody as a head coach and as a football team, and it makes them even more fun to watch.
On the flip side of it, you mentioned Jordan Love putting together a nice second half in which he was making some throws. There was a throw on play action. He avoids defenders and just throws a C to Christian Watson, who's coming on an intermediate crosser. Then you look at the numbers. They only let him sling it 20 times. That felt kind of weird to me. I understand that Josh Jacobs has been tearing shit up, but at the same time, maybe let Jordan Love continue getting a little bit hot. I thought that they were kind of, I don't want to say putting training wheels on or, putting a leash on him, but to an extent, it was like, all right, well, why are we not letting this dude who we just paid a ton of money, who's clearly got one of the more gifted arms in football, why are we not unleashing him a little bit more, especially against a depleted defense?
Well, here's the thing with that. They did have a depleted defense, yes. But in the first half, the Packers were getting killed in the drop back passing game. They couldn't protect up front. Pat O'Connor, like we mentioned, was whooping Josh Myers' ass for the entire game. And I think what they did was the Packers offense, you have to understand, they do not take checkdowns. They don't throw checkdowns at all. Jordan Love, I believe, is second in the NFL in average depth of target behind Anthony Richardson, which, again, does not take checkdowns. Jordan Love, in this game, his average depth of target was 9.5 yards compared to Jared Goff at 5.6. There is no check down in this offense. Right. And the problem with that is if you don't have any check downs, you're always going to find yourself in 3rd and longs, 2nd and longs, unless you get the run game going, which is why they ran the ball so much. They were extremely successful with it. They had a 50% success rate on the ground for the entire game. And we saw the Lions just continued to get worn down by trying to tackle Josh Jacobs, which is exactly what you go and get Josh Jacobs for. So I don't mind him only having, 21 passing attempts?
Yeah, I think it was 20.
Yeah, in the first half, he was getting crushed. So I think that kind of the game flow of it all, you got to give the offensive line something easy. And then what the Lions were doing was they were blitzing every play action. So the biggest problem with running play action from under center is you're forcing that running back who is doing the run fake. He has to carry out the fake and then come back across to the A-gap to try and block a guy who is running full speed from depth. That's a hard block for him to do. On the the throw you mentioned to Christian Watson. He evades that sack because Josh Jacobs misses on the blitz from depth under center play action. So it's really hard to do that. And I think in the first half, what was happening was the offensive line couldn't protect very well. So they leaned on that run game to keep them close and keep that offense going. And then in the second half, when they were able to protect a little better and fix their protection rules, then you saw the deep shot to Watson. Then you saw the touchdown to Tucker Kraft, the other throw to Watson. They needed to iron itself out, and I think that's where the Packers are. The Packers are such an aggressive team in the run game and passing game. They want to run at you. Josh Jacobs wants to run through you. And then as soon as you get tired of Josh Jacobs hitting you, Jordan Love is going to throw the ball 40 yards down the field. Right. That is Josh Jacobs is their check down in the run game. So I get saying like, yeah, you got to let Jordan Love cook, but this is the offense. Letting Jordan Love cook means him throwing the ball 40 times a game, 10 yards downfield. And the last time we saw that, I think he threw 3 interceptions against Minnesota.
Fair enough. I had something. Oh, you were talking about blitz pickups. David Montgomery had a hell of a one near the end of the game.
Was so cool. It was so cool because it was just a great play by everybody involved. So David Montgomery cut blocks, takes out the knees of Eric Wilson. Eric Wilson flips over, gets back up,
pursuing Goff,
on Jared Goff, but Jared Goff still is able to hit the throw to Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's just a great play all around. That's a football play. Like that's why you love the game. You know, it's great players making great plays. Sometimes shit just happens.
In terms of the Packers, though, like, yeah, they're 9-4 and they've lost both matchups to the Lions. I still think that's a team that I don't want to see if I'm anybody in the end. I think that they can hang with anybody. And they can beat anybody, frankly, too, just because they have that quarterback. They've got that running back who's played incredibly well. I do worry about their intermediate pass coverage, which continues to be a problem, especially like Quay Walker continues to be like, all right, what are we kind of doing there from a pass defense perspective? But I don't. If I'm an NFC team, like if I'm the Eagles, I'm not lining up to play the Packers. If I'm the Lions, I'm not lining up to play the Packers a third time. So I still think this is a team. They're probably going to finish with the 5 or 6 seed just because that division's loaded. And Minnesota still only has 2 losses. So right now they're holding the 6th seed as a 9-4 team, which feels pretty rare. But again, like if they play the 3 seed, who right now would be Atlanta.
No, I think it would be Seattle.
The Seahawks. Even then, though, like if I'm the Seahawks, I'm like, oh, great, I got to play I'd pick the Packers to win that game probably.
I mean, I would too, but I think the biggest thing, like you said, is the defense's inconsistency up front. I think it all ties together. Because they play so much single high coverage, they are a aggressive 4-3 base. If your pass rush isn't working, then the intermediate targets are easy to find against guys like Quay Walker. Isaiah McDuffie had a rough game in coverage. On that Jared Goff play that we talked about, the dig where Dave Montgomery does great in blitz pickup. Quay Walker's supposed to have that intermediate hook where the dig is thrown, but there's a shallow coming across and he bites the cheese and then the dig is thrown right behind him. That happened far too many times. I think Jared Goff, I believe, I'm going to go find it on Next Gen Stats because his middle of the field targets.
I'm sure it's just a big green dot.
Oh, he was 14 of 17 for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns targeting in-breaking routes against the Packers.
There you go.
That is a Quay Walker stat. That is an Isaiah McDuffie stat. They don't have very good intermediate coverage right now, and combined with, again, an inconsistent pass rush, you get a 4-3, a 4 down that plays a lot of single high, and the dig routes are going to be open. So they need to either get better up front or they need to get better at linebacker. I'm not sure which one's going to happen. Like you said, I still think this team is going to win at least a game in the wild card round, but I think they are a tier below the elite teams.
I think that's fair to point out. All right, let's look at the rest of this weekend slate in terms of like the big games. The Burkhardt Brady game is Bills Rams. The last time the Bills went to Los Angeles, they put a whooping on those Rams. Obviously, a much different team now than it was in 2022. The Bills have routed off a ton of wins in a row. They are sitting at 10-2, and they've clinched the AFC East earlier than any team has clinched a division in 15 years. The one thing that does give me a little bit of holdback about picking Buffalo is that their run defense against good running teams hasn't been great. Miami ran all over them. Obviously, the Ravens did. They are a team that basically lives in nickel. And if Sean McVay has proven, hey, I will run it. I don't care. I'll give it to Kyron Williams, and I'll just let him run up the gut all game. That is one worry I have when it comes to Buffalo. They did get Matt Milano back, which is great. Glad to see him back after over a year off the field. So that that helps their run defense. They're getting healthier. But until I see them have like a really good game stopping the run, I'm going to have those trepidations about them. And the Rams are a team that can run the ball.
I think I'm just going to lean Bills heavily here. I don't think the Rams have enough defensively. Mm-hmm. And by enough, I have to explain. I love the Rams defensive line. I love what they can do against the pass. Their biggest defensive lineman is 315 pounds. And then the next one is 305. Those are the only two people above 300 pounds on the defensive line. They get run the hell over every single game. If you can consistently continue to hit them, they're going to wear down. They're going to constantly get worn down because they just don't have the bodies up front. I think Roseboom will make a couple plays shooting gaps, but you want to run at them. I think the Bills showing that they're unafraid of just spamming duo until they stop it gives me a lot more faith in their ability to win these kinds of games where you just have to run the ball. And so I think they're going to win handily. I do agree a little bit with the Rams offense against the Bills defense in terms of their inability to stop the run. But the Rams run game has been a little inconsistent this year. While it looks good schematically, the inconsistency up front with who's playing, who's out. Alec Jackson was a limited participant with a foot injury. That's their starting left tackle. If they're constantly shuffling the deck chairs, I worry about their consistency in the run game. And then if you can get pressure on Matthew Stafford, he's a completely different quarterback.
Yeah, and we've seen that Joe Brady, like you pointed out, he is more than willing to run the ball a lot. Much different than what Ken Dorsey was doing last year. I mean, we saw what Ken Dorsey wants to do last Monday night with the Browns and what Jameis was doing. So I do think that big Spencer Brown game ? For the Bills. Just run it behind him. I do think that could be a very successful formula. Also, though, the Rams defensive backfield, you pointed that out too. Even if Keon Coleman can't go this week, but it looks like he's going to be able to. He's practiced all week, so it looks like he'll be good to return. They're starting to get Amari Cooper more acquainted with the offense and getting him more targets. So I do think the Bills will win, but if anything will give them issues, it would be the Rams having a good day running the ball and keeping it close.
Yeah, I think they'll win, and I think it's a comfortable win for the Bills. I don't know which Rams team we're going to get offensively, and defensively, I worry about them not being able to get into true passing situations.
Let's stick in the NFC West, though, because the Cardinals and Seahawks will face off for the second time in 3 weeks, I think. They just played each other a few weeks ago. The Cardinals had one in the bag last week. I picked them to beat the Vikings. They're winning by 2 scores in the fourth quarter, and then Kyler Murray, respectfully, just kind of pisses it away with a couple bad interceptions, one of which, man, he just kind of throws it up across the field, immediately turns around, is yeah, that's going to be picked off, and Byron Murphy comes away with a gift. Aaron Jones scores, and that kind of ends things. The Seahawks, I don't really know what to make of them. I feel like you probably are a little bit more in tune with the Seattle side of things. I know you're a guy. McDonald's defense has been fun at times this season as well, but it's also had its own faults. Who do you like in this? I'm leaning Arizona just because I think that's a game that, coming off last week, you want to get that look back a little bit. And Seattle, it feels like they escaped with a win against a bad Jets team that for lack of a better term, handed them a win. Aaron Rodgers 2-play sequence of, all right, I'm going to miss a wide open Garrett Wilson and then throw a pick 6 to Leonard Williams of all people. It felt like they were kind of handed a gift from a bad football team. I think that Arizona can rebound and take a win this week.
So from the Seahawks perspective, I think their defense is actually playing well. I think they're playing really well since the game against Buffalo. I believe since week 9 or since they added Ernest Jones, that defense has gotten really good. And especially good against the run where they struggled. So I believe since week 9, they are third in defensive EPA per play allowed. They are their fourth in success rate allowed defensively. And all it took was finding a real linebacker that can help you in the run game, find the intermediate hook areas. So I have a lot of faith in this Seahawks defense, especially with, like, as you mentioned, Leonard Williams playing at a really high level. The miss to Garrett Wilson was disgusting, but
Yeah.
the pick six was just he got like he absolutely like he did. Aaron Rodgers does the thing where he always throws hot against pressure, and then the Seahawks pulled the rug out from under him. But Devin Weatherspoon makes that play, tipping the pass on the blitz. He's been a maniac this season. Incredible player. Um, I my only issue is I think I trust the Cardinals on both sides of the ball more than I trust the Seahawks defense and Geno Smith, because the Seahawks offense is not good right now. From a structural and schematical standpoint, they're not very good because they're hamstrung by a poor offensive line. They can't
Yeah,
do
they're 28th in EPA per play since week 8. So the offense has taken a big old nosedive.
And it's crazy that they're 28th in EPA per play offensively when Geno is still playing really good football. He's still playing at a high level, but the offensive line is so poor right now. I believe they are 29th in adjusted line yards according to FT and fantasy. They are 31st in power success rate, meaning in short yardage situations, they're not really converting them. And that's been the issue all season. And I think they're going against a Cardinals defense that is actually kind of fun. They are fun as hell. They do a lot of weird stuff. Buda Baker's playing at an all-pro caliber level, but they've shown a lot of ability in the run game that I didn't think they had at the beginning of the season because they were so small. Dante Still's making some plays. Kazir White is having a good year. Mac Wilson playing really well. So I think I'm going to choose Arizona largely because I trust their defense and offense more than I just trust the Seahawks defense and Geno Smith.
The Chargers and Chiefs. I mean, we're going to see what devil magic the Chiefs pull off this week, and Patrick Mahomes is going to hit the field with the strength of 1,000 men, and lightning's going to shoot from his ass, and it's just going to decide the outcome of this. Yeah, the Chargers, to me, their record, I think, is a nicer representation of like how good they actually are. I think that they are if you want to put them in like a slightly above middle tier team, I'd be cool with that. Like they're not a bad team by any means, but they lose to the Ravens, they lost to the Steelers. I think every big game that they've had, they've kind of fallen short. And the biggest win of the year is probably the Bengals, maybe, and that's still a team that's struggling. So this is a rivalry that they haven't had much success when it comes to winning games. But eventually the Chiefs got to lose another one, right? Like they've come so close to so many times this year. Like they come away barely against Carolina. They escape on Black Friday against the Raiders because of a bad snap that was apparently going to be called false start, changed to illegal shift, with everybody debating on Twitter saying that the NFL is rigging games for a team from Kansas City, Missouri. Is hilarious, by the way. I just think that eventually it's going to catch up with them in a divisional game with, a really well coached team. Maybe this is a week where they drop another game. This isn't the Brandon Staley Chargers. I think that, the Jim Harbaugh led Chargers certainly have a better chance of doing it in terms of how their offense itself runs. And we're talking about teams that run the ball out. The Chargers have done it as much as anybody in the league. Now they're going to have to do it with what? Gus Edwards now, because no J.K. Dobbins. So we'll see how that impacts things. But I think that this is a team. By the way, I think since Watson went out for the Chiefs as well, I mean, you look at their defensive efficiency, it is tanked because they don't have that dude in the secondary right now outside of McDuffie to really give them an edge. So I want to pick the Chargers, but I'd also feel dumb doing it just because why would you pick against the Chiefs? But for the sake of having a little bit of, I'll pick the Chargers just for shits and gigs.
Well, I think I did pick the Chargers.
Oh, did you?
I did pick the Chargers in this game, and the reason I say that is because the last time these two teams played, the Chargers defense played really, really well. And despite giving up, I believe, 20 points, they gave up 17 points the first time to the Chiefs. And the defense played really well. But I believe this is a very different Chargers offense. The reason I say that is because Justin Herbert is playing MVP caliber football. And I am fine with saying that. You can bring up his counting stats, his raw stats. I do not care. Justin Herbert is playing at an incredibly high level when it comes to what he's being asked to do in the offense. He's playing it super well. And it feels like they're figuring out that despite running the ball very often, the Chargers aren't very good at running the ball. I think they've struggled at the guard spot, center spot has been an issue for them. So they've struggled to run between the tackles. But Justin Herbert is playing at a high level higher than the last time that they played. My only issue here is in the previous game, Kansas City, while only having, I believe, only having a negative 0.2 EPA per play on the ground, they had a 45% success rate, which feels like the story of the Chiefs season. They might not be explosive, but they're effective. And I think I completely understand it in every single way. The Chargers do not allow explosive run plays, but they are 17th in success rate on the ground since that game. So if the Chiefs want to just play we're just going to get 4 yards and hit you with paper cuts the entire game, they can do that. But I'm not sure this is the same Chargers offense where that would work. So I think I'm going to pick the Chargers, but I'm fine with looking dumb and the Chiefs winning this because I would get it if they did.
Yeah, that's completely fair. I'm kind of hovering on that line as well, which is like if again the Chargers should, actually maybe even be favored a little bit. I understand why they're not because the Chiefs are the Chiefs. But yeah, Herbert has been doing some ungodly stuff, and doing it with weapons that are not exactly up to par when it comes to like elite weapons. Like Ladd McConkey's been fun, but he's not exactly a Justin Jefferson. Quentin Johnston, a couple weeks ago looked like year one Quentin Johnston when he had 3 drops against the Ravens. Last week they just hit the Ladd McConkey button over and over again. It was like, yep, throw it to Ladd. Yep, throw it to Ladd. I think how many? I think Herbert only had like 11 completions last week or something like that, and 9 of them were to McConkey. So like they found the dude who was like, yeah, we know that he can get open, and we'll get him the ball. So I do think that there's something to that where it's just like, yeah, we knew this coming into the year. This is going to be our style. We didn't have, necessarily a big game record, but McConkey's evolving into something for Herbert. And I think going into 2025, if they can get somebody to complement that, i.e., maybe a T. Higgins, that would be fun. I'd like to watch Justin Herbert with T. Higgins. That'll take them to that next level. In both AFC and NFC playoff races, like every week we see those graphics like, oh, in the hunt. I'm ready to put like a fork in a few of these teams. Be like, I don't care what their record is. I'm just kind of done with them. And one of those teams that I said going into last week, I was like, yeah, they're not going to win. Let's stop playing this game. Let's happily, at least happily for me, let's stick a fork in the Miami Dolphins. I'm totally cool sticking a fork in that fake ass football team when it comes to them being legitimate like playoff contenders, much less Super Bowl contenders. I'm good on the Dolphins. What do you have? Do you echo those thoughts? Do you have a team that you might want to throw in there as well?
Yeah, I think the Dolphins are done. I think that I don't know if they're able to overcome the time to a missed, but on top of that, they lack physicality on offense. So they have tried to build this offense around speed, angles, and misdirection. But a well-coached defense can shut all of that shit down. We have seen well-coached defenses shut down all the misdirection and motions, and they don't have they they need a they need a Josh Jacobs. And not even like a player of Josh Jacobs' caliber, but what Josh Jacobs brings to the Packers offense, that physicality, the tackle breaking, the running between the tackles. That's something that the Dolphins don't really have. And they also don't have it up front. I think Aaron Brewers played well, but they need a guard badly. We talked about power success rate and how Seattle was 26 in power success rate. The Dolphins are 29th. They are not good in short yard situations, and it's been a problem ever since Mike McDaniel got to Miami because they built everything on finesse. They need physicality on offense. Defensively, I actually think they've played well, but you can only do so much when you're on the field as often. So I'm cool with sticking a fork in the Dolphins. The other team I would mention is I don't think the Texans are going to be much of anything when it comes to the playoffs. I mean, they're probably going to make the playoffs because the AFC South is bad and they have 2 games on the Colts. But, man, this offense is awful. Like, it's an awful watch because of how talented they are. Like, this team should be better than what they are on offense, but they can't run the ball. They still can't run the ball. Even though Joe Mixon has played really well, they still can't run the ball. They find themselves behind the sticks because of penalties far too often, and their only hope on offense is CJ Stroud and Nico Collins. Go figure it out. But that's not a sustainable way to win the playoffs. So they'll probably win the division, but I don't have any faith in this team past the wild card round.
And it's weird too because their offensive line's been awful, and like I don't think anybody like saw that coming into this year because like it wasn't like a ginormous issue last year. And then all of a sudden, like the bottom just falls out on that unit this season, and Stroud's been running for his life a lot. So that has been, I agree. You and I have talked before, and you said something about them being very similar to the Jaguars of a couple or last year, where they just fall apart in the second half of the year. So I think that there's certainly something to that. You got Texans fans saying, give the play calling duties to Gerard Johnson instead of Bobby Slowick. Just try something new. I don't know if that's necessarily what they need to do or not, but something should get done there. On the Dolphins front, though, if you wanted a fun little look into them, so since the start of last year, if you look at like all of their quote unquote like big games, I guess here's a quick rundown of how they've done. So. At Buffalo, lost 48-20. At Philadelphia, lost 31-17. Against the Chiefs, lost 21-14. At Baltimore, lost 56-19. The Bills lost 21-14 and lost the division. At Kansas City in the wild card, lost 26-7. Against the Bills earlier this year, 31-10, lost at home. At Buffalo, lost 30-27. At Green Bay on Thanksgiving, lost 30-17. Like there's a clear pattern here where it's just like they're not just getting beat, but they're largely like getting like beat, like bad.
Well, again, it's not just getting beat by those caliber of teams, but it's teams with well-coached defenses. Like, even we could go back to the loss to Brandon Staley's Chargers and the 49ers. Those were, for the most part, well-coached defenses that knew how to stop this offense. So I think they're still trying to find their curveball, and I think it's just they lack physicality. Like, I know it gets made fun of where it's like, oh, they need to be more physical. And this and it should be much more like nuanced than that. But no, they just need more physicality. Like they don't have that ability. Like we said, like the cold weather thing isn't gonna go away. And I don't really think it's a cold weather thing. I think it is they're not physical, so they can't grind out those easy yards.
Let's talk about Bo Nix real quick because you and I were in the camp of like, I don't think he's gonna be all that great. And I mean, to his credit, he's played very well this year. I still have holdouts just because we've seen it from other quarterbacks where they have good years as a rookie, like we saw it from Mac Jones where he led New England to the playoffs as a rookie, and then that was kind of his plateau. I think Bo Nix is better than Mac Jones just because he has a little bit more like athleticism to him. And his arm is bigger. But Where do you lie in the Mac Jones conversation? Or sorry, the Bo Nix conversation as of right now? Do you feel comfortable saying, okay, I think that he'll continue this and be a good NFL starter, or do you have some trepidations as well?
I mean, I think he's played really well in the second half of this season, and he has
Yeah,
shown a lot of growth and a lot of more comfort in this offense that Sean Payton is running. So I will say, yes, he can be a starter in the NFL. I also think the Broncos have done a really good job of helping him out.
a
You know,
lot of good window dressing stuff to help him. Like they've a lot of the Broncos Twitter people point out, well, he's got the most completions over 20 yards. Well, he's also got the most attempts over 20 yards, and a lot of them are off play action, dressing things up a lot. So I do think that
oh, yeah,
there's something to that.
that's the sign of a good offense. A well
Exactly.
structured
Yeah.
offense doesn't ask your quarterback to be a Superman, be a superhero every single play out of the game.
Of
So I
course.
think Sean Payton and the offense have done a really good job of scheming up Bo Nix to get him stuff he's comfortable with. I think the offensive line has played a lot better. I mean, Garrett Bowles, Quinn Miners, left tackle, right guard have played incredible football this season. They've really helped on the ground and in the passing game. You've seen the connection with Cortland Sutton. Devon Vele has just been like come out of nowhere and been
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
good. The Marvin Mims usage is fun.
Yep.
I think they're still inconsistent on the ground, which gives me a little pause.
Especially like Javonte Williams over his last 2 games has like 1 yard rushing.
Yeah, like it's really
weird.
weird. So I still worry about their ability on the ground, but Sean Payton can coach. Like I think we kind of lost it with the Russell Wilson stuff, but Sean Payton can coach a football team. And when he gets his guy at quarterback, he can coach the hell out of an offense.
Yeah, and I think that, I saw Robert Mays tweet this. He was like, every year there's at least one fan base who can't be normal about their quarterback. And I guess this year it's the Broncos. And I think that, fandom is fandom and whatever. But, there can be a nice middle ground, as there can be with just about everything, where it's like, okay, he's certainly playing a lot better than I expected him to. But we can also attribute a lot of that to good coaching from Sean Payton, good, like, the system that he has around him, where it's like, okay, we're going to dress a lot of this up. We'll throw, a lot of screens. We'll hit them with a lot of play action. Keep defenses honest and give you more opportunities downfield to unleash those deep throws. But he's also making really good throws. The 93-yarder to Mims was a seed, and it was great. He's doing a lot of things that I didn't think that he would do. And I'll give him even more praise. I know that the 18 of 35 completion to attempt ratio against the Browns on Monday night doesn't look great. But I'm not going to sit up here and fault him for that when one of my biggest setbacks on him was like, I don't think he can throw the ball down the field all that well. So I'm not going to, turn my face and be like, oh, actually, he's not doing that. I didn't think he could do it to begin with. So the fact that he's living a lot of, doing a lot of the YOLO ball stuff, I think that's cool. While also being balanced enough to, okay, we'll take these checkdowns. We'll live in a good system around him. I think that's perfectly fine, and he's playing well. So tip of the cap to him. I hope he continues playing well, and we'll see how that continues for the Broncos. They look like they're holding on to a playoff spot right now. Shout out to Peter Schrager, by the way, who pardoned me. Did you see that?
I did. I don't think you should be let off though. I don't think you should be let off easy.
If the master of this all says, yeah, you don't have to do it, I'm going to take the out. Now, had he gone along with it and said, yeah, do it, I absolutely will. But unfortunately for everybody, I'm good. I'm gonna stay away from that. He also picked the Jets to be the 1 seed, so there is that. Shout out to you, Peter. You're great. Hope you're doing great. I don't know. Is there anything else this week that you're looking forward to watching in terms of certain games, certain matchups?
Kirko revenge game.
Yes, Falcons and Vikings. That'll be. What's up with him, by the way? Are we? Can we stick a fork in Kirk from last week? That was brutal.
So, I think personally, I got a little out over my skis with saying like Kirk is back when maybe the Bucks defense might just be bad.
Yeah,
because every team that he has torched has been the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The issue with Kirk Cousins and the Falcons this year has been the same issue since the beginning of the season. He can't move.
yeah.
And when you think about a Zach Robinson, when you think about the McVay offense, it's a lot of bootleg stuff. It's a lot of rollouts off of wide zone action. Even Matthew Stafford will do the rollout and the bootlegs, even though he also can barely move. But Kirk can't move at all. So if we look at kind of what they do with him on the field, they only use play action on 17% of their snaps
Yeah.
with Kirk on the field. You're asking him to do a lot of work in the drop back game. And while I think he can do some of it, it just isn't, it's not conducive when you don't have a guy who has the mind of like Aaron Rodgers or like even a Matthew Stafford or an arm like some of the stronger arm guys in the league. You got to kind of dress it up a little bit more. But because you're not using play action as much because he can't move, you're just letting him go out there and sling the ball, which he there's still some throws where he's leaving a lot on the table. The Mooney play where Mooney is wide open. Great throw, great design, great route by Mooney. It's open, and he throws it late and behind him into the dirt. That's the thing that you're worried about with Kirk Cousins. And I mean, Bijan's been awesome. Like he's been incredible this season. I think
Yeah.
the receivers have been good this season. It's just Kirk can't move, and that creates a statue in the pocket, which creates pressure, and it limits a lot of what the Falcons can do when it comes to their offense because you lose all the play action. So, well, you don't lose all the play action. There's different kinds of play action. There's the bootleg naked stuff that you assume is play action. Everybody sees it on Madden. Play action boot right. That's the Madden play, I guess. That's a bootleg. But there is some play action.
The PA waggle.
Yes. There are play actions where you're just still in the pocket. You are standing there. That is the Falcons play action. You're not getting any movement, and you're not really showing any different kinds or variations of offense. You become siloed. So when you're in pistol, it's going to be play action. If you're under center, it's going to be a run. And that was a problem the Falcons had earlier this season. So it's a little weird. This season's been weird for Atlanta, especially offensively. But I'm worried about Kirk going up against a defense that will tee off on you if they smell any weakness.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Brian Flores isn't afraid to send the heat, so we'll see how much they do that. Is that game in Atlanta or is it in Minnesota?
Let me see. This game is in Minnesota.
Oh, fun! Oh, it makes it even better. Yes, lovely. That'll be good. How serious do you take the Vikings? By the way, I mean, are you buying into this as like they can go far, or
I feel they're in the same spot as the Packers for me. They're not among the NFL's elite, but they're in that next tier. And the reason I'm so confident in saying that is because Sam Darnold's made some throws. Like he makes like 3 or 4 throws a game where it's like, oh shit, that's why he was a top 10 pick. Like there was
he did that, when he was, still a Jet. It was just that he was on such an awful team with awful coaching. It just, it didn't mean much. Like, remember the game that he came back after having mono against Dallas and he threw like an 80-yard touchdown? Yeah.
So I think Sam Darnold's play has shown me a lot this year for me to confidently say they are one of the NFL's best teams. I don't think they're in that same tier as like the Chiefs, Lions, Bills, but they're in that next group of like they can win the Super Bowl. They might not be the favorites, but I can see a path for them because Sam will make a couple throws a game. The offense is really well coached and well designed, getting good stuff on the run game from Aaron Jones. You have the best receiver in football. And then the defense just constantly figures out ways to poke holes in your opposing offense, and they find the weaknesses.
Yeah, to me, like if I'm like doing my own tiers, they would go in the tier of we'll get eliminated in the divisional round. Like I think that they'll win a wild card game against whoever they play, because it'll be the winner of the West or the South. So I think that they'll be able to win whatever game that would be. But once they face, a team like, if they face Philadelphia, I don't think they'd get blown out. I just think that they would just be, it would come down to who has more offensive talent, who has a quarterback that I trust more. And as well as Sam has played, like it's in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, but it's still Sam Darnold. I'm going to have to keep seeing it to, truly, buy into it. So I think that's a team that they should win a playoff game. You can put Kevin O'Connell in the coach of the year conversations. Yeah, they've done a tremendous job so far this season. Who would be your coach of the year since we're on that topic? We'll definitely revisit this down the road once we do like our end of season award show. But just as of right now, just quick talking point.
Jim Harbaugh, my coach of the year.
That's a little bit, an outside pitch there.
I just think of how far behind this roster was, and especially what they've gotten on defense. Tareeb Still, 5th round rookie, played awesome. Really well. Played awesome. Deion Henley, I believe, was a day 2 pick last year. Been awesome at linebacker for them. They're getting great play from Troy Dye and Denzel Perryman at the 2nd level. They've turned back the clock on Khalil Mack. Poona Ford has been incredible this season. And just Jim Harbaugh's ability to turn this team into his team from year 1. You can tell the difference. It's like night and day between the Brandon Staley team and the Jim Harbaugh team. Brandon Staley team probably doesn't beat the Bengals on Sunday night, whatever that game was. That team doesn't beat the Bengals, but a Jim Harbaugh team finds a way to win that game, and I think that should be commended. And I think where they were projected to be at the beginning of the season compared to where they are now, they should absolutely be. He should be the coach of the year in my head. Dan Quinn obviously is going to get a lot of love. I wonder how they're going to finish the season because they started off hot. If they finish poorly, I think that opens the door for a lot of guys. Dan Campbell obviously going to get a lot of recognition because this, I think, is the first time that the Lions have won 12 games in a row or 12 games for 2 consecutive years in a long ass time.
Yeah, so since the Civil War or whatever, like it's been.
It's got to be like since like actual like I think it's like Henry Ford was actually alive making cars. I think obviously Mike Tomlin's going to get a lot of votes for just managing the Steelers. I think he should get a Lifetime Achievement Coach of the Year award.
Bro, especially like we keep seeing things like if Mike Tomlin's offering to trade a receiver to you, say no. Just be like, nope. If you're done with them, there's no way in hell I'm taking him. Like the whole Deontay Johnson thing's been crazy, but yeah, I think that the top 2 for me would be Mike Tomlin and Sean McDermott. Just for similar situations, I guess, but also different. I think that coming into the year, it's like the same cycle with the Steelers, right? Where everybody's like, yeah, there's going to be finally the year where the Steelers struggle, finish with a bad record, and every year Mike Tomlin always figures out a way to get them not just like in the playoff picture, but they're always 9-10 wins. They have a chance to get to their 10th win on Sunday to get to 10-3. They hold the lead in the AFC North right now, and Russell Wilson just threw for 414 yards. So that
hilarious,
dude, it was. I hold back on saying like quote unquote like vintage Russ. That looks pretty good. I was sitting there and enjoying myself as a Steelers fan, where he's playing smart football and spreading the ball out to 10 different dudes. Ben Skoranek got a catch. That was it was fun to watch.
I don't know if it was like vintage Russ, like this is like the fine wine vintage Russ, but we're on the way there. We're close. We might have
the grapes.
Yeah, we might have pulled the vintage a little too early, but it still tastes good. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me actually from that game is how well the Steelers skill position players have been playing.
Yeah,
because there were so many plays where all Russell Wilson is doing, which I think is the reason you start Russell Wilson, is he's just taking the check down.
They took so many checkdowns to the
yards. Yeah, because Jalen Warren's playing well. Najee Harris is playing really well. You're getting good play from the receivers, even though George Pickens will have like 5 different moments where it's like, what are you thinking? So that's just the game you play with George Pickens, which is exactly why Mike Tomlin should get a Coach of the Year. Oh, he's going to get Coach of the Year votes. I think he should get like a Lifetime Achievement Coach of the Year. Like just because like I don't think he's won one.
He hasn't
won a Coach of the Year. I think he should get a Lifetime Achievement one because like think about the people he's had to manage and still not had a losing season in such a long time. What he's done with this team and managing the ebbs and flows of it has been really well.
Yeah. And the case for McDermott, I mean, it's the case I've been making all year for why I think Allen is my MVP front runner. It's a lot because of, a lot of people coming into this year like, I think the Dolphins are going to, win the division. They'll take the step forward. Buffalo will take a step back, or Aaron Rodgers and the Jets will win the division. But regardless, the Bills are finishing third in the division, and they're off to the best start in 31 years for the franchise. So he's done a really good job of honing in that group that's gone through so much turnover, had a lot of leadership leave the building. They did bring one back. Micah Hyde's back in the building. So, yeah. No, Micah Hyde's not gonna he's not gonna get big snaps. He's gonna be Udonis Haslam. He's just gonna be the dude on the end of the bench. Hypes the dude. He'll be Andre Iguodala at the end of his Warriors run. He's just gonna be that dude who's been there for a while. Is gonna be basically an assistant coach who dresses. Which is cool. That's all you need him to be right now because Taylor Rapp's playing well. They've gotten good production from DeMar Hamlin, Cole Bishop when he's been in, so they don't necessarily need Micah to be playing, but having him back in the locker room I think is pretty sick. So I think that McDermott and Mike Tomlin would be my top two as of right now just because of the jobs that they've done when nobody expected them to have the seasons that they're having.
Yeah, I agree. I think I can agree a little bit with McDermott. I still thought the Bills would win the division because
so did I.
The other teams just had far too many question marks. But Tomlin, I completely understand. I think I would also add Kevin O'Connell, obviously, for what he's done with Sam Darnold. Of course, again, Dan Quinn for the beginning of the season is going to get a lot of votes. How he finishes the season, again, is going to be a big one. A couple of underrated Coach of the Year candidates are Jonathan Gannon and Mike McDonald. I think whoever wins the West, because especially if it's Jonathan Gannon, we came in with this team thinking they'd be especially flawed.
Especially defensively, I think.
Yeah, if we thought the Cardinals would be in top 5 pick position going into this season. We just hoped they would be fun. But they're well on their way to potentially being a playoff team with a defense that is still not fully finished yet with being what they are, which is also why I think Nick Rallis should be in consideration for assistant coach of the year just for what he's done with the pieces he's had. Also, fun fact, Nick Rallis, brother of Riddick Moss.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Huh. Sick. Everything comes back to pro wrestling, doesn't it?
Everything is pro wrestling, but he's done a good job coaching that defense. And so I think I would heavily consider him for assistant coach of the year. It's not going to go to him because Ben Johnson exists and Aaron Glenn exists and Vic Fangio also exists, but I think he should get some love.
I love it. I will point out in the bold prediction show ahead of the season with Rosenthal, I did say the Cardinals would have a top 10 offense, and I don't know if they currently do, but I feel like they're close. I'd have to go back.
Let's see. By EPA per play, they are number 10.
Let's go.
And then they're 7th in success rate.
There you go. I think that's all I need. That's all I need.
Count it. Take it to the bank.
I'll take it. Yeah. Never go broke putting something in the bank. All right, buddy. This is a lot of fun. What do you got coming on SB Nation? Establish the Fun. Is it live this week yet?
It is live. We talked about Tareeb Still, who we talked about a little bit. Chargers corner, playing really good football. Leonard Williams helping to save the Seahawks season. And then Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back Bucky Irving and Liam Cohen designing the hell out of some cool run concepts. They had one where it's they motion looking like it's split zone.
Yes. Yep.
But it turns into wham, and Bucky Irving runs for a 43-yard touchdown. Not 43-yard touchdown. It's a 43-yard gain. Might be my favorite run design of the entire season.
I don't know who the tight end was that was coming forward. Was it Otten or was it the other one? But he just smacked the living hell out of the Panthers. And they're coming off.
And that was the second time they run in the game. The first time they ran it for 11 yards, and the nose tackle went too far upfield. But this time he knew it was coming, still couldn't stop it. I think it's great. Liam Cohen has been amazing this season, and because he figured out he needs to run that damn ball.
If you just a little insight into me why I love Bucky Irving so much. My girlfriend and I were watching the Monday night game against Kansas City together. She was over, and she just heard Bucky Irving. So now it's just an inside joke every time she hears Bucky Irving. It's Bucky Irving. It makes me laugh. Shout out Bucky Irving. Maybe we'll put him in the anytime touchdown parlay this week just because of that. We'll see. In terms of me, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, be sure to do that. If you're listening to it as a podcast, give a review, all that fun stuff. Follow everything going on at the Sporting News as well. And we'll be back after week 14. You think it's week 14 already, man? Good Lord. Time's fake.
Time flies when you're watching ball.
Put that on a shirt. Put that on a hat. I'd wear it.
I would wear the hell out of that hat.
That's good. All right. We'll put a pin in that and come back to it. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Bump Fake. As always, see you after week 14. Take care.